So, even after I did that question and answer video, I just realized that there's still not an awful lot about me that you guys know, despite how long I've been here on YouTube, and that's kind of disconcerting. Not because I think I'm the most interesting things in sliced bread, actually. I think I'm pretty boring and dull. But I think it would be beneficial if I talked about a few things that you guys could relate to in a more personal level. So, I've already said that I personally have not faced a lot of hardship as an atheist here in Canada, where we're fairly multicultural and we've grown to accept our differences for the most part. Despite that, one of my most popular videos to date talks about one of my experiences of persecution, of what I didn't believe in as an atheist, and how it affected me, and how, in general, I feel that it affects society. But one thing I didn't talk about, really, was how religion affected my family life. I was actually sparked to make this video with something that happened recently to me. Something that I experienced very recently. And this was actually on Christmas Eve, when my family members like to get together, and we like to, like many families, have this nice Christmas banquet. But instead of doing it on Christmas, where we're all busy and we prefer to spend time with our own individual families, we decided to have this banquet on Christmas Eve. And it was good time. Most of my family has already accepted that I was an atheist. Like I said before, I don't think this is a widely known fact, but it's known among a few members of my family that I have a YouTube channel and that I talk about religion often. In fact, all the time on my YouTube channel. And most of them are fine with it. Most of them actually don't mind. A couple of the older folks, though, didn't take too kindly to it. I don't know how this happened. I think maybe one of my cousins spotted me not praying and just doing my own contemplative thinking while everyone else was sitting there, in my opinion, looking like a goof with their eyes closed and hoping that things would get better. While they were doing that, I was doing my own thing. And apparently, one of my cousins, I think one of my younger cousins, voiced what they saw to their parents. And the thing about their parents was that they're not quite as tolerant as their children. So sometime later, I was in a conversation with my cousins about God and religion, and I told them why I didn't believe. I told them that I can't believe. It's just not possible as of now for me to believe. And I don't know, the topic somehow came to the issue of God's morality. And I explained that I just could not even believe that this God was considered a loving God after all the shit that he's pulled in the Bible. And to be honest, I felt that my arguments were fairly solid, but of course I'm biased towards my own thinking. Maybe they sucked. At any rate, my cousins didn't have an answer for me. And that was when the parents of my cousins stepped in, my uncle, to be precise. He wasn't all that happy. Actually, he sounded pretty damn agitated. His response went something like, "Well, why are you so hostile towards our God? You can't ask a question and expect an answer if you're questioning us like that." And I'm like, in all honesty, what? I don't know what I did to offend you, or I don't know what I did to offend your religion, but I'm just asking an open question. And it's based on nothing personal, I assure you. It's just my logical deduction, and why I think that Christian logic in this instance makes no sense. Apparently, he didn't buy that. So I continued, and I explained myself, and I said, well, even if this God did exist, I personally think he's a douche, because of the aforementioned reasons. He didn't take too kindly to that either. He then said, Well, you're not God. You can't tell him what to do. This God is a loving God, and anything he does is automatically right and just. And then I said, well, would you say the same thing if a parent did that to their own children? If your parents maimed you, tortured you, raped you, and then left you out to die, would you be saying the same thing? And then he said, well, these parents are fallible human beings. They can't be compared to an omnipotent God, right? And I said, yes, but. And I was going to explain my reasoning that if that was the case, then I should see no reason why you should follow this God's example in the first place, or claim that he's a loving God. But for lack of a better word, and in all seriousness, he rage quit, and he just walked away. So here's where I stand. It goes to show that I still love my uncle. I still love my family, even though they believe different things than I do. I don't think that should ever be a point of contention. Whatever they believe, I will still love them. But at the same time, in all honesty, I've lost a good measure of respect for my uncle. I'm just kind of worried, actually, for my cousins. And not that I should be, because I trust them enough to make their own judgments. But if that's how he reacted to me asking honest questions, not even openly insulting his religious beliefs or his religion, what would it have been like in his household if I were raised there, as his children were? What would it have been like if one of his children had a moment of skepticism, just as I had? What would it have been like if he heard about that? I can't even imagine that. The way he showed such hostility towards me, the way he openly dismissed my ideas, I really have to wonder. But please understand, I'm not trying to paint my uncle as some intolerant bastard. I still love my uncle, and I still respect him in certain ways. I'm just trying to show what religion can really do to someone, whether or not it's intentional. And it's quite frightening, to say the least.